I'm not sure I have to say much else, guys. Dr. Brett Weinstein and Diary of a CEO. Please listen to the whole thing. Link in the description. Mhm. Go on, sir.
Crisis. And mind you, all of the words here need caveats. I do believe that there was a pathogen, SARS-CoV-2. I do not believe that we had anything that would, by the prior definition, be called a pandemic. I do not believe it was inherently an emergency. But nonetheless, these are the terms we use. The COVID pandemic was some kind of emergency. We were delivered something wrongly called vaccines. We were propagandized into avoiding off-patent drugs that really did work. And so, we made our situation vastly worse. We locked down, which injured people. We put masks on children, which literally disrupted their normal developmental processes. We kept vaccinating and revaccinating, which has created an entire landscape of adverse events and early deaths, which we are still not being honest about.
This is my dog, Checkers. She's 21, and I owe it all to the farmer's dog. Checkers is my...
So the 3.5 realms are the origin of the virus, which is all but certain to have been laboratory and very probably the Wuhan Institute. But the Wuhan Institute isn't the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It's also connected to the NIH, Anthony Fauci. This enhancement, this gain of function research that was embarked upon was downstream of a weapons program. And
what's gain of function research?
Gain of function research is where various techniques are employed to give a pathogen, in this case a virus, capabilities that it didn't otherwise have.
Okay.
So what I think happened in the origin of COVID, we can now tell a pretty good story. You have a vast network of laboratories working to find new pathogens that can be turned into weapons. What story they tell themselves about why we need these weapons, I don't know. But it is clear that if you are working to enhance human health, or you say you are, that you are allowed to enhance the lethality of germs as part of a dual-use program.
Uh-huh.
So the excuse is, oh, we're working to prepare the world from a pandemic. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, right? That's what they tell us. It's not true. The likelihood of a pathogen leaping from nature to humans is actually quite remote for reasons that it took me a long time to realize, but I now get it loud and clear. Pathogens don't jump from animals to humans very easily because it's not an easy jump, right? They have to do 2 tricks, and they have to do it in rapid succession in order for it to work. The first trick is they have to actually infect a human being. The second trick is before that human being dies or gets better, they have to learn to jump to a second human being. That is not an easy trick. So what human beings have done is they have started accelerating that process in laboratories that are specifically attempting to create these highly pathogenic creatures that infect people for the purpose of creating weapons. So what happened in Wuhan, I believe, is there was a case where some Chinese miners who were working in a mine that was full of bats, they were actually literally shoveling bat guano out of this mine. 6 of them became sick and 3 of them died. None of them made anybody else sick. And they were all compromised because they were breathing this dust in the mine, which made them vulnerable. But the fact that 6 miners got sick from a virus in this mine told the folks at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, who were connected directly to some American researchers, told them, aha, there's a virus in a cave in Yunnan province, and the virus already knows one of the two tricks. It can infect a human. What we need to do is find that virus and enhance it so that we have a virus that can spread between people.
Why would they want a virus that can spread between people?
Because they're part of a cryptic weapons program.
Okay.
Now, if that sounds preposterous to you, and I can imagine that it would, I can imagine myself 5 years ago thinking that sounds absolutely ridiculous and paranoid, frankly. I would suggest that people read Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s most recent book. It's called The Wuhan Cover-Up, in which he explores at great length this weapons program and its probable link to SARS-CoV-2. It is also worth reading the book he wrote before that, The Real Anthony Fauci. When one comes to understand that the reason that Anthony Fauci was the highest paid federal worker in the US, bar none, that's because he was the head of a weapons program disguised as a public health program.
Okay, so Anthony Fauci is the guy that I saw on TV giving us advice on what to do about this pandemic. He
was the guy. And
he was like the medical advisor guy.
The medical advisor guy. But the funny thing is, Anthony Fauci is largely responsible for the gain-of-function research that created the virus in the first place, that made it a human pathogen.
How do we know that?
Because we now know that there was a ban on gain-of-function research in the US, and that Anthony Fauci was part of the effort to offshore the work to Ralph Barrick, who was an American researcher, still is an American researcher, his partners in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, Xi Zhengli being the primary. So what they did was they evaded a ban that arose in the US, I believe in 2015, as a result of very realistic fears that a virus would escape from gain-of-function research. They offshored it to the Wuhan Institute of Virology so the work could continue. That was Anthony Fauci's work. So somehow he ends up both in a position to fund and fuel the research that creates the virus, and then he's the go-to guy for advice about what we should do about it. That's a very odd coincidence, and it worked out very badly for planet Earth.
Why would Anthony Fauci send offshore it to China, who are, I would consider to be one of the US's arch nemesis?
Yeah, that is a great question. I don't know the answer to it.
You wouldn't want China to have that information. It's like developing the nuclear bomb in Russia or something.
Well, I actually think that folks like you and me we don't get it. We think that China is a nation and America is a nation, and that these nations are antagonists. We don't understand that actually the United States, while it is a nation, is also a set of factions, and those factions don't agree. One faction decided to forbid gain-of-function research. Another faction decided, oh, no, you don't, and we know how to get it done. And it was partnered with some faction of that Chinese entity, across the water. And if I think about how America looks to outsiders, right, I can imagine people talking about, oh, the Americans are doing this, right? But if you're talking about what the Biden administration is doing, you're not talking about me. The Biden administration isn't on my team. I'll guarantee you that, right? So the point is, the Biden administration is my antagonist. The Americans are a composite of antagonists. I mean, I guess in one sense, but I don't know why we offshored weapons research to China. I don't know that there isn't a partnership between entities that is much more relevant to the unfolding of events that simply doesn't have a name I would recognize. But somehow we know that we did it. We know that the research was forbidden here, and we know, Ralph Barrick trained Xi Zhengli in how to do techniques, including what he calls no-seeum edits. Those are edits you can't see. Why would a biologist interested in studying pathogens in order to make people healthier care whether you could see their edits?
Could it not be the case that Fauci moved the project to China, the gain of function research to China, or was involved in that because he wanted to understand these pathogens, these viruses better, so that we could do experiments on them to better understand them, to figure out how to defend against them?
This is exactly what they tell you. I'm a biologist. Maybe I'm dumb, but that story doesn't make any sense to me. You're going to create a new virus from a ancestor you've pulled out of a cave in Yunnan province that you've enhanced in some way that you decided to enhance it. It doesn't tell you about some virus that's going to leap out of nature of its own accord. It tells you about the virus you just created. It doesn't make sense from the point of view of enhancing human health for two reasons. One, there's no demonstrated evidence that such research has given us any benefit whatsoever in fighting off pathogens. There's no case in which we've seen that. What we do have are multiple cases of leaks of pathogens from labs studying them. So we've just got a simple comparison. What are the chances if you study some virus you plucked out of some cave that you're going to come up with something useful that's actually going to help us? Certainly didn't happen with COVID. Chances are very low. What are the chances the thing's going to leak from your lab and cause a global pandemic? Pretty high, actually.
Mm-hmm. I just imagine scientists in the lab would take a sample of it, they'd put it in the lab, they'd start analyzing it, they might start doing tests on it to see how it responds to certain things. And then, through no fault of their own, maybe it leaked.
Okay. But let's see how that played out. We've got some gene jocks pulling a virus out of a Yunnan cave and enhancing it so that it becomes a communicable human pathogen. They should, in theory, in studying it, have come up with information that would tell us what to do if such a pathogen ever got out, which it did because they lost control of it. Well, what did they tell us? They told us, don't use ivermectin, don't use hydroxychloroquine, that what you should do is you should wait at home until your lips are turning blue. Then you should come get medical help. Now, that's wrong in every way. The right thing to do was to allow doctors to look at the patients who were coming into their office and to figure out how to treat them. Those doctors should have said, well, this person, they appear to be sick with a respiratory pathogen. There's a good chance that it's an RNA virus. They could have quickly actually ascertained that it was an RNA virus. You know what works on all RNA viruses? Ivermectin. Then they could have treated it and they would have seen, oh, ivermectin works for COVID if you give it very early, if you give it in sufficient doses, and if you give it with fat. Okay, doctors would have figured that out on their own. Instead, what we got was a message from the very people who had engaged in offshoring this research, ostensibly to figure out how to deal with COVID, who then gave us exactly the inverse of the right advice, right? And then what did they do? Well, then they told us the route out of this is a vaccine. What they delivered was not a vaccine. It was a gene therapy. That gene therapy, we were told, blocks the contraction and the transmission of COVID. And what happened was they demonized everybody who questioned either the safety or the efficacy or both of these treatments. Turned out that didn't work. So what we have, this is why I say that the COVID story diagnoses the system. If you think, and a person could be well within their rights to think, well, I'm sure we were studying the virus to protect people and that it would tell us something about what should be done if it ever were to leap into humans. Well, we got a perfect test of how well that worked. Every single thing they told us to do was wrong and upside down. If you took what they call the vaccine, you put yourself in jeopardy. If you ignored their advice and you used ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and you used it early and you used it in sufficient quantities, it actually was highly effective and actually rendered this illness perfectly manageable for almost every single person. So we've seen how well they did. They failed across the board.
Do you think there's malicious intent somewhere? Because when people hear these stories, because the average Joe doesn't know how systems above them work,
Yes, there's
they tend to
malicious
think of this
intent.
like Illuminati group of people coming together,
Yes.
deciding this was going to happen, then executing this plan for some, because these, this room of people who are evil, who people refer to as like they, wanted to do harm and they want to control us. That's the kind of conspiracy narrative.
I have no idea what motivates such people. My guess is most of the people who participated in the programs that did so much harm thought they were doing the right thing. I don't think that's true for all of them, though. I don't think that's true for Anthony Fauci.
You don't think he thinks he was doing the right thing?
I think he knows he's a weapons guy, and that when you're a weapons guy, you are inherently comfortable with the destruction of human beings. That's what you do for a living. You're trying to create things that destroy human beings. And I don't know what it would be like to have such a job. I've never had one. But my guess is there is a mechanism for rationalizing absolutely ghastly things if what you do for a living is plot the destruction of others.
Now, you raise this as a concern, as one of your key concerns, because I guess you think we haven't learned our lessons from this?
No, we haven't. And I think things are a little bit inverted in Britain. In the US, there is widespread discussion of the harms that came from the so-called vaccines, but the question of the repurposed drugs that story has not broken. People still think that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine don't work and never worked for COVID. I think this story is, in general, the inverse. That the vaccine harms are still taboo in Britain, and there's more acceptance of repurposed drugs. But really what we need is a no-holds-barred exploration of what happened, irrespective of what it was. Maybe I've got it all wrong, and maybe that would emerge in an investigation. But we need to look at the viral origins, how exactly that happened. We need to look at what was done, the coup that public health staged against medicine, in which directives about how to treat patients came down from on high rather than the normal medical process of doctors figuring out how to treat their patients empirically and pooling their insights. And we need to talk about what happened, where these gene therapies came from, what was understood about the danger, and how it is that we treat all of the people who frankly did exactly what they were asked to do and have had their lives compromised or lost because of injuries that they were not told were possible.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.
So we easily beat crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, and he's the worst because of his policy. And
I painted a scenario that was going to result in the extinction of humanity and approximately how long it would take. The problem is that it's already underway on a timescale of decades, and we have created a fragile world that cannot endure this shift. People, should they be preparing? Absolutely.
That's quite scary.
Dr. Brett Weinstein is an evolutionary biologist and former professor, uncovering the world's most pressing and controversial issues and offering his solutions to save humanity from a destructive future.
Humanity is in terrible danger, and the number of existential threats is growing. For example, I am profoundly concerned we are going to squander the lesson of COVID. You can see the complete collapse of journalism, our political institutions, our courts. They all fail. The tragedy is most people don't know that we are still not being honest about the origin of COVID. And the truth is, but our political institutions don't want to talk about it. which is going to mean that the failures are going to come back.
Is there anything else on your list of concerns?
So I have 5 different existential threats that AI poses, and we will go through them. But we have no evolutionary preparedness for living in a world where a computer can out-compete a human being. That's a dangerous world to live in.
Is there anything we can do to prepare or to avert this crisis?
Yes. Here's what I suggest.
Brett, of all these existential threats, is there one that's at the very top of your list?
Yes. There's nothing more dangerous than this, and that is...
This is a sentence I never thought I'd say in my life. We've just hit 7 million subscribers on YouTube, and I want to say a huge thank you to all of you that show up here every Monday and Thursday to watch our conversations. From the bottom of my heart, but also on behalf of my team, who you don't always get to meet. There's almost 50 people now behind the Diary of a CEO that worked to put this together. So from all of us, thank you so much. Brett, who are you and what mission are you on? And when I ask that second question, I'm looking at the full body of your work and I'm trying to encapsulate it maybe in just a couple of sentences.
Sure. I am an evolutionary biologist. I'm a former college professor who has been cast into the role of a public intellectual by bizarre events at my college. I am on a mission, and I'm afraid it's going to sound weird to people. I think humanity is in terrible danger. I think we worry about the wrong things, and I do not have any reason to believe that anything I could do is going to change the fate of humanity, but I feel obligated to try. That is to say, if we're going to be doomed by our errors, and I know something about what those errors are, then it falls to me to try to make that clear to people and processes that might have the power to redirect us. So I'm making that effort, even though, frankly, I think it's unlikely to work.
That's quite scary, Brett.
Yep, I've gotten over that part.
What exactly are you referring to when you say that you think humanity might be doomed?
There's a basic set of premises that just comes out of biology. No species is forever, and that includes our species, no matter what I or anyone else does. But the objective of the exercise is really to stave off extinction as long as possible. And I believe that that is a valid thing to do. It is a vital thing to do, even if in the end we know that no matter how successful we're not going to escape the destruction of the solar system. We're not going to escape the collision of our galaxy into another. And even if we did, ultimately the universe has a fate and it will take us out with it if we beat every odd. But why are we in trouble? Well, we're in trouble because all creatures are well built for the environments in which we evolved. And human beings suffer from something that my wife Heather and I in our book call hypernovelty. So novelty is the state of something being not what you are evolutionarily prepared for. And human beings are very good at dealing with novelty. But what we're doing in the present is we're creating a rate of change that is so rapid that there is no conceivable way for us to keep up. We cannot adapt fast enough to keep up with the novel influences that we are forcing upon ourselves. And what that means is that with each passing year, we end up ever more poorly adapted to the life that we have to lead. And it's gotten so bad that the environments that we live in as adults don't even resemble the environments that existed for adults when we were kids. The reason that human beings have a longer developmental period than any other creature that has ever existed on this planet is that you need a long developmental period for us to acquire the insight and the nuance in order to be a functional adult. That program doesn't work if the environment in which you are picking up those lessons is unrelated to the environment in which you have to do the adult stuff. It's a non sequitur. So that's why we're in trouble. We have technologies that are powerful enough to destroy us. We have processes that we have unleashed the consequences of which we can scarcely imagine. And as these things proliferate, the number of existential threats to humanity is just simply growing. We have to rein in that problem. The proliferation of existential threats means that the moment at which we blink out as a species is getting closer. If it isn't this that takes us out, it'll be that. We have to arrest that process.
Of all these pressing concerns and of all these existential threats, is there one that's at the very top of your list of concerns?
Well, they're not even completely separable. So, for example, we are politically obsessed in this country and across the Western world with anthropogenic climate change. I'm sure you've noticed.
What is anthropogenic climate change?
Anthropogenic climate change is a change in the average conditions on planet Earth that is driven by human activity. So the claim is that CO2 traps heat from the sun, causing the mean temperature to rise. That will have impacts on, for example, how much ice persists at high altitudes and in the Arctic and the other cold regions. And that then is part of a positive feedback where, because ice is white, it reflects the sun's energy back into space. So the more ice that melts, the darker the world becomes, the more light it absorbs, the warmer it becomes. So that positive feedback is actually a real reason for concern. However,
those where faculty autonomy is really privileged.
I can't make you agree or disagree. I hate to even use that language of agree or disagree, but nonetheless. But when you're here, you are required by your job to create an atmosphere in which all children can learn. That idea that this is trying to control people's thinking, no, but not addressing these kinds of attitudes does affect people's abilities to learn, and that is part of your job. It's a theoretical framework, just like any other theoretical framework, but that's the one that where this institution stands behind and that you're going to have to grapple with, right? So maybe that might be a great note to end on, right? So thank you so much.
At some point, I confronted the president and I've said, you're remaking the college. You haven't left enough time in faculty meetings. You're burning up all the time in faculty meetings on these announcements. You have to let us discuss these things. And so he arranged
this. It's important.
Something like 6 meetings that were supposed to solve this problem, where 20 people at a time could sign up to have a discussion with the president. So the email list was the only place left at which we could access every other member of the faculty and have a discussion, which is why I repeatedly went to the email list and said, look, we've got a problem. We've got authoritarianism taking over the college. This intersectional stuff is dangerous and being deployed in a way that's a hazard to the core values of the institution. And
one of the other things that you said, I believe, was we keep on hearing that we are an incredibly racist institution, and we have yet to hear any credible evidence for racism here on campus.
We have a problem with racism here on campus. And we have a problem with other folks not being treated the way that they should be treated. And this is going to continue on my watch.
Excuse me. Wait.
But Phyllis is saying we're asking.
This is one of the most diverse colleges in the country. And here we go. There's no solution to the problem, is there?
Shift.
I wonder what that solution is.
We do diversity well. We're leading the nation in diversity. But one thing we're not leading the nation in is equity.
Yes.
And what that means is that some of y'all sitting in these seats and some of y'all sitting in these seats.
No, Raymond, I don't want that.
It ain't been right. The cost is too high. And the implications are too much. And so
the implications are too much. You have every opportunity and every availability to do what you want with your life, and you still believe you're oppressed. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? I'll just let it play. Go on.
At some point in time,
I'm oppressed because I'm in God. And this was 2016. Yeah.
if this campus is going to stand up for what it espouses to be, it needs to say enough is enough.
I established and charged this equity council, this incredible.
Excuse me. Enough is what enough? What is the enough? What is the goal? Just curious. You're allegedly discriminated against minority, and you're at one of the top colleges in the country. How does that happen? Just curious.
Incredible equity council.
Oh my
with
God.
Developing a plan for institutional change, systemic change that would enable Evergreen to acknowledge and address the equity gaps that are pervasive on our campus.
Change to what? You sweaty fat guy. What are we changing to? What is the goal? No one ever answers that question. I know.
And I want to thank, with immense gratitude, the council for the work you've invested, the heartbreaking effort you have gone through, and for the incredible.
Now, if 78% of the country is white, just saying, why would that be a problem if 78% of the students at your college are white? Because wouldn't that reflect the demographics? Oh my God! Oh my God!
Incredible plan you have.
Oh my God! Stop it!
Please let's all give them a applause.
The committee meeting was not called the committee meeting when we were asked to go to it. It was called a forum. It was not a forum. It was a celebration of the equity plan, which had supposedly been distributed to the faculty, but was actually not available to them until I emailed the faculty with this document. You know, irony of ironies, I'm the one sending out this plan and saying, actually, yeah, y'all should read this. So the meeting occurs. It is a celebration. At the celebration, architects of the plan essentially say, this plan is going to happen.
Because it is no longer acceptable that our mission and vision.
Excuse me. If we want to play the game, the numbers game, if 78% of college students are white, 13% are black, and others make up the rest, what is the fucking problem? Just saying.
Vision only applies to a few.
Mm-hmm. So, excuse me. Well, I'm just going to let the video play because this is really good stuff, guys.
So as we think about this plan.
So if we're not more than 13%, it is goddamn racist. Okay. But isn't that the game we're playing?
We should be thinking about how are we unscrewing the screw.
So tell me, ma'am, if you are so discriminated against as a black woman, maybe a lesbian, I don't know. So you got 1 or 2 or 3 chits. Explain exactly to me how you are discriminated against. I know. I'm just going to let it play.
And it will take many hands to do this.
Too many
to unscrew the structure of institutional racism.
Really? Where's the racism? You're here, aren't you? I guess that's not enough, is it? Oh no. Oh no.
We have a beginning to do this. And our hope is that we're inviting you to come along. We're going to do it. Don't get it twisted.
Okay.
But we would like for you to join us on this road, on this journey.
On this journey to what? What exactly are you journeying to? Wouldn't it be fun to know? I think it would.
So we invite you. We want more conversation, and we know there's much more work to be done.
You know this woman is a radical fucking Marxist, right? Radical Marxist. You got it? I mean, if the population is this and thus, it should be okay. Oh, no, it's never okay. Because why? Because there's white people there. You know what I'm saying? Oh,
we
my
invite
God.
that conversation.
Oh, my God.
But if you want to be an obstructionist, work on your own.
Mm-hmm. So what exactly do you want, sweetie? What is the goal? Tell us what the goal is. You want the representation of black people in colleges? Absolutely. You already got that. So what do you got here?
The charge for them was to do something relatively small from the president, and they go into how we're going to start hiring in the future, and how just they go way beyond what it is. The president, and just mission leap. How about and some of the things that they argue, some of the things that this plan, which we know that no one has seen because it literally has not been made available, even though the claim was that it was available, are things like, from now on, not just individuals hired to positions need to have an equity justification, but every single position itself needs.
Godfather of Ramadi, why are you being such a Nazi? Of course, if there was this massive discrimination by the patriarchy and the evil Nazis, why would women, and especially black women, be on the campus of Evergreen? I guess that's never occurred to them. Go!
To have an equity justification.
Wow.
Which means,
Wow.
how do you hire a chemist? Does chemistry have an equity justification?
Just hard sciences. Yeah.
How do you hire an artist who doesn't happen to be engaged in social justice issues?
Yeah.
That is the end of the liberal arts.
How do you hire an artist who sucks just to fill a goddamn quota? That's I know. Hamster, why don't you shut up? Oh, let the girl talk. Okay.
That is the end of the liberal arts college right there. Right. So that is one of many things in this document. We printed it out, and I have my hand scrawled like every single page. Like, what are they doing? Oh my God.
So we're going to do something for you today that we did as a group.
Let me tell you what they're doing, Dr. Heather, is they are excluding white people, and regardless of how many minorities allegedly get into the college, it doesn't matter because they hate whitey.
In August.
Uh-huh.
We're going to ask.
Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Can I just ask you a question? Not being mean. Not being mean. I'm glad you're here at Evergreen College. Tell me, with the evil oppression of the Nazis and Donald Trump and white people who hate you because you're black, how in God's name could you possibly arrive at this place? Just wondering.
For key stakeholders that are on this campus to get on board our journey to equity. So what I'm going to do first is ask, this is the council.
So what I'm going to do first is explain what equity is. Equity is equal outcome, regardless of whatever you have, whatever you've done, whatever skills you have, it's equal outcome, and that is communism. Do you understand that, boys? I think you do. Well, I need some more equity. Really? What if at some point in the future, equity, equal outcome means you get discriminated against? Oh my God, stop it. That's never going to happen. because I'm fucking stupid.
Let me say it again. I am fucking stupid.
Our council is large, expansive, and we're gonna get on a canoe. Okay, and we're gonna get on a canoe that's gonna sometimes have fierce waves, unbearable.
Oh yeah. And the fierce waves are worse for black people? Just because you're black? Is that right?
That's a fucking novel idea. So the waves of the ocean and the canoe are worse for you because you're black. Yeah. There we go. Go ahead.
Headwinds. And sometimes,
excuse me. Doesn't everyone on the canoe have the headwinds?
Oh no, it's just black people and women.
Right?
Intentional or unintentional extra rocking of the boat because we're not on the same page.
I see. And the rocking of the boat, everyone's in the same canoe, affects everyone. Oh my God.
Heartbeat.
The canoe was a metaphor for the journey to this magical land of what they were calling equity.
Utopia!
So the idea, I mean, the whole thing is almost too preposterous to believe, but with distinctly non-hospitable to canoe shots of a rocky coastline on which waves are breaking heavily and the sound of those waves breaking.
So if we can bring this canoe forward some and make sure it's a straight canoe.
And it's 13% of people on that canoe are black people, and they're all going through the same bullshit. The wind and the sea and sharks. That's also unfair because it shouldn't happen that way. Oh my God. SCE is here. Hello, SCE. Oh my God.
If we need to have our canoe, and John, let me know if this is not okay. Can there be?
Because people on the
Can it be 3 wide? 2 wide. Okay, so we got to make this happen.
I mean, the whole.
Yeah, but if black people and white people are on the canoe and they all go through the same shit, sharks and oceans, that's unfair somehow, right? Right? Got it.
The thing didn't hang together visually, auditorily, conceptually, mathematically. Really, the canoe was not well thought out.
Conceptually, it seems good. We're sending the college down the river.
Well, I mean, I did, and I must say this is very uncomfortable for me because I think if there are two populations that really have an extremely strong claim in the U.S. to consistent structural oppression, it's Indians and Africans, people of African origin. Emotionally, I'm on board with the idea of, a canoe journey to somewhere, but this looked like they had cloaked a freight train in the imagery of a canoe.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Hold on. The senior administrators, you have to ask for permission and commit something.
Excuse me. Black man. Black guy. Why would you be in college if there was this suppression? I'm not even sure this is a black guy. It might be. Who the fuck knows? Nobody cares. You're black or green or whatever the fuck. Come on, you want to go to college? Let's go. But here we go with this victimization bullshit.
Oh my God, I'm black, so there's some
extra hurdles I had to go through to get into really. You had to get through extra hurdles to get into the Evergreen College. Would you tell us what those were? Because you're black. Anything?
Things before boarding the canoe.
Yeah, yeah.
So can we step back out? So
you mean if you're white, step back out and let the black people go through the canoe? Okay.
I would like to board the canoe because I'm committed to enhancing and furthering.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Oh my God. Well, I'm sorry, I'm white, so could I get at the front of the canoe? So, fuck that. We've all gone through bullshit, and we all got to go through the goddamn canoe. But black people, for some reason, according to this dude over here, they should have it easier because they're black. Does anyone think that would be acceptable? If oh my God, these white people should go through easily because they're black. Oh my God.
And equity on campus community among both students and staff.
Why don't you suck her dick at this point, you fucking bonehead?
Faculty. And to do that,
just drop to your knees and be a camel hair.
with compassion and kindness.
It's my compassion. I'm a white guy, so I should just jump in the water and drown. Is that it? We should just give up our fucking drive to get somewhere because I'm not black. What the fuck is this?
Personally,
oh my God. Okay, got it.
I'm committed to making Evergreen a more student-ready campus, and as provost, I am committing resources to help.
And so, since you're white, why the fuck don't you quit and give it to one of the black people who know better than we do? Because you're obviously white. Shit. Why don't we do that?
Train our faculty.
No. That's not what we mean, is it? No. Okay, I guess we get somewhere over here. Sorry. I get all crazy up in this shit.
I'm here and I commit the position of privilege and power I occupy as the president of this college to invest in this council, its initiatives.
Well, if you're the president of the campus and you care about this bullshit, resign. Let this woman over here, a woman of color, take your position. See, that's easy enough, isn't it?
In its place.
What about this man here who apparently is a Native American? Give him the job. You resign and go and live in fucking poverty. No? Why is that? Just wondering why that is. Whoa! Oh yeah, Native American culture. Got it. Right.
I'm sitting there in this room with several hundred other people, and I can, in my mind, almost count the people in the room who understand.
So all we got to do, Brett, is all the white people in charge of the college give their jobs up to the nearest minority. And you know what? They never do that, do they? It's amazing, isn't it?
Understand that something terrible is afoot. Who understand that A, this is a bizarre way to do this. B, it's duplicitous. They've told us that they're sharing this document. They've told us that we're going to be able to discuss it.
Yeah, they told you a lot of shit. And guess what, Mr. Dr. Brett? They were fucking lying to you. And now you know.
And then they've threatened us for daring to think about questioning it. And so there's a way in which, sitting in that room, you know, I knew that Heather was a couple blocks away and that she would understand this exactly as I did. I knew that there was I hesitate to say it, but there was a dean in the room who I knew wasn't going to say anything, but he knew how wrong this was. And so there's a way in which you just...
Now, excuse me. This is Evergreen College. If this is the evil patriarchy, how do we have these people here? Doesn't this look like a woman? A woman? Well, maybe not. Yeah. Woman, black guy over here, in the college. How does that happen if the evil patriarchy and the goddamn Nazis are in charge of shit? Just wondering. Obviously, Brett Weinstein is a Nazi.
There's a sea of people.
A Jewish Nazi. Because, that's the new thing, isn't it?
Engaged in a shared delusion. And then there's a few people witnessing the delusion and isolated, unable to exchange words.
Anyone who is a person of color, why are they there? Why are they allowed? Why are women allowed to go to Evergreen? Under this Nazi regime, the Jewish Nazi. This is fucking ridiculous. And here we are.
Words or anything that send.
And Brett Weinstein, Dr. Weinstein, is like, he has to make excuses for this shit. Get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? If there are minorities and people and women and whatever, LGBT, they're there. So how did that happen? Under the evil fucking white patriarchy.
Of being alone in a crowd.
Oh God, stop it.
Is profound. And that really was how that meeting felt.
And in a crowd of people who are supposed to be your colleagues.
Yeah. Who are sleepwalking.
Structural, institutionalized inequality.
Excuse me. Black people. This woman looks black. Out. Some black guys over here. Out. Non-binary person. Out. That's not happening. That's not happening at any college campus in the United States. Especially not Evergreen. But here we are. We're doing the fucking struggle session with Brett Weinstein and Heather. Do you understand what's going on here?
Or racism, right? So an anti-racist frame understands racism as a system. While individual players partake in it, it's not dependent on individuals.
Excuse me, ma'am. All due respect. How in the world do black kids or gay kids or LGBT kids or other people get into Evergreen College if there's massive fucking discrimination? I'm curious you could help me out with that. Because you're a doctor of something. I don't know what.
Individual players, right?
I like her hair, but god damn. Talk about the poison Kool-Aid drinking person. Explain to me, dear Rachel, or whatever your name is, how is it that 60% of college kids in college, on average in the United States, are women? If women are being discriminated against by the evil patriarchy and they can't go to fucking college. Tell me about that. Tell me about 20% of the kids at Evergreen are black. How is that possible? In the evil KKK Nazi patriarchy. How is that?
Embedded in the fabric of the society.
Except it's not, though. So you're full of fucking bullshit. Why don't we hold these people to account? Excuse me, Dr. Rachel, whatever your name is. If Donald Trump, for example, is a Nazi and he wants to keep anything all for the white people, and Joe Biden is not a Nazi, and I don't think either of them are Nazis, how do you explain that there are all these black people and women and gay people and LGBT, and I'm 100% in favor of that. How do you explain why they're there? Can you tell me why?
All the institutions, the norms.
Except what you see in your head is not reality. Is it?
The practices, the policies, the way that history is told, and
and we've got 15-20% of college kids are black people. We got 60% are women, maybe 40% are men. How in the world can that happen under the evil Nazis? Do tell us.
And it functions to ensure an unequal distribution of basically everything.
Define unequal. What does that mean?
Between people of color as a whole and white people as a whole.
What about people of color in the NBA or the NFL? Is that a thing? About 90% of NFL players and football players are black. Does anyone care?
No one.
And yet somehow you're not advocating for more white people in the NFL or the NBA or whatever. You see how this works. This is absolute fucking Marxism, bourgeoisie, and the proletariat. And the proletariat, boys, are you. Or is it the bourgeoisie? Well, whatever. Something.
I had started attending every faculty meeting and going to every presentation because there were bombshells dropped every time and nobody appeared to be trained.
You are the oppressors, I guess, guys. That's what I'm saying. You, Heather, Dr. Heather, by the way, and Brett, he's Jewish and she's a woman. So obviously there's a goddamn Nazi contingent to keep these people out of colleges. And yet they're still there. I know. It's fucking crazy, isn't it?
Tracking all of it.
And if you can just take a moment to look at this image and look at the...
And here we go again with the oppressed black guy who thinks he's so put upon
and everything is bad because...
Where are you at again?
Two different realities.
The two different realities are reality and your reality. The reality is,
bro, you have special privileges.
Your reality in your mind is I'm oppressed. Explain that to me. Show me how that's working. I would like to hear
space at the same place. So for folks that are younger, don't think...
So you're showing pictures of 1950s.
You do realize you don't live in the 1950s? And a lot of that bad stuff we have solved.
Go on.
This is some distant memory of far...
Yeah, yes, it is. It's way back. It's your grandpa days. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but god damn it, kid. That ain't happening to you.
Far long ago, okay?
It's about us as faculty and staff, but you know what? It's also not about you.
Most of the people who had their mental faculties about them were learning to avoid these things because every single one of them put you in a bind.
I can't emphasize this enough. This is not useful. Just get rid of it. It is not possible to avoid being social.
Get rid of what?
Let me help you, Robin. All white people, right? Am I on the right track?
Into a racist worldview if you're white. It's not possible. It's coming at us 20.
Oh, Jesus. God damn. I just took a shot.
I was right.
I know. I know.
24/7. The only way to resist it is to be able to see it and think it through. So to deny it is not going to help you.
Who's denying what? I did.
urge you to look them up as well. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. They're actually
Okay, Marsha and Sylvia, good luck. Hey, God bless you. Glad it worked out for you. You got through college, you're graduating. And so now I'm supposed to feel a certain way because I'm white? Really?
were initially to throw a heavy weight and a bottle at cops. So I
don't think you're going to want to do that.
I offer 3 very different strategies, right? One is political organizing.
To do what?
Another one is non-traditional, maybe, more resistance, more violent kind of action. And
more resistance to what? What are you resisting?
Could it be resisting white people?
Just saying.
Also prayer. 3 different political strategies.
Through education, and tired of waiting for change to happen, they forcibly took the island back. And I tell this story because the first.
And here this guy is again.
Took an island back.
What does that mean? Describe it.
Generation students.
You mean Haiti? Is that where we killed all the French people? Was it
that island you're talking about, or a different one?
Just waiting to hear.
First generation students of color.
Yes. And you're there. And there's a lot of people of color at Evergreen College.
What is your fucking point?
We all share similar struggles.
Just like everyone else. Why is your fucking
problem bigger than mine?
The students are taking a stand. They're not powerless. They're not objects in this sense. They're
Excuse me, why the fuck are you here?
If the evil white goddamn Nazis are saying no to the black man or the black woman, what the fuck is wrong with you? What's the matter with you?
subjects in this sense. They're powerful. They said, we're going to.
And you're here. How is that possible under the evil fucking Nazis? You stupid motherfucker. What is wrong with you?
Have these conversations one way or another.
And then the conversation is, you can do whatever you want as a black man or a woman or Hispanic or a fucking trans. Doesn't matter. No one cares. Do what you can do. Go. But here you are, a black guy or something, telling us you're being oppressed when you're in the top college in the fucking United.
And the administration still said no. And then now that administration ain't there anymore.
So the people in the audience are all fucking white people
who want to prevent you from going to college.
Right. Well, that's what I was thinking. The fuck is the matter with you? No, seriously. What the fuck is the matter with you?